Welcome to the second video on training the left hand to do whatever you want it to do. If you haven't watched the first video, please go back and do so you are on the same page here as me. The next challenge is really fundamental, really common, and we all have it when we try to build the left hand dexterity, speed, accuracy, and so on. And it comes from this. The natural movement of the fingers are that wavy pattern of one after the other. That's what comes natural to most people when we tap our hands on a desktop. And when we start playing, we have to really counteract that. When we're trying to do all kinds of different things and have this finger go down first and then that and then the pinky and play all kinds of patterns, then what's happening in the brain is that because you have a natural pattern of movement, your brain is going to want to do that when you try to do this. If you try to go, your brain is going to try and go, or because that's da 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 or da 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 as you try to do this, right? And so the brain is going to send one impulse to the fingers, and you're going to try to counteract that with another impulse of pushing down the second finger instead of the fourth finger or whatever. And that's going to create two impulses in the brain that goes like this, that fights. And that fight between the brain, the pattern of the brain and what it's used to from nature, and your will of, I want to push down the second finger, you know that feeling, right? When you're practicing and your fingers don't cooperate. That not cooperating is your brain trying to do something else than what you want to do. And so that's a stress because you have one impulse fighting another impulse. And that goes all the way down to your muscles. So what happens then in the it's like, trying to push two arms, trying to push each other down to see who wins. And that's going to produce an extreme amount of muscle tension, unnecessary energy, really, used on nothing else or something else than pushing down on the right string. And as you get better, that stress, that muscle tension, that conflict just decreases and decreases and decreases as you create a pattern of movement that is, it almost becomes, in the end, not almost, it becomes as natural as the most natural thing. It's amazing how the body can adapt to anything. But that's why we are where we are. We're adapters. We can do anything as human beings. We can morph into anything. We can use fingers that are meant for, tools and carrying things and grabbing things. We can use them in this position to play guitar, which is amazing. But you have to first counteract the natural pattern of the fingers in the brain. That creates stress, and you have to move through that stress. Then secondly, once you're so lucky that you've built your pattern, and you can play something that's really not natural to the body, but you've trained that pattern and grooved it into your brain, so it's as natural as just moving naturally up and down the wavy pattern. Then your next challenge is that the new pattern you want to practice, let's say that's... Once you start practicing that, you're going to battle the old pattern. So now you've broken the first pattern from nature, now you have to break the next pattern that you just embedded inside your brain. And I remember this, when I was building my skills, I was like, come on, right? I've learned this. And now I have to, my fingers wants to play it all the time. And if you never experienced this, that simply means that you haven't been practicing the first pattern for long enough, with enough focus, with enough intensity. You didn't stay with it long enough. You went from thing to thing, from lick to lick, or from sequence to sequence too fast. And so you'll never develop mastery in that way. The key to mastery and the key to getting better rapidly is to focus intensely on something like building just that one pattern. But if you use that method, which is absolutely the most effective way of going about it, if you use that method, you're going to get another challenge, which is that whenever you shift your pattern, you have been doing the old pattern so much that you have to break out of it and play something else. And so when you go back and forth between the first pattern you learned and the second, there's going to be resistance until you can play the new pattern as well as the old, or lick or sequence, and you can go back and forth between them with your brain being totally, okay with it. It's not, it's two patterns now that we've engraved in the brain. Now, that's a cool thing here, because now you know two different patterns. If you're smart, you're going to develop a pattern on top of that that is a combination of the two. So the brain can use sequences or movements it knows already and build a third pattern. But that's something we're going to talk about when we come to how to develop the really good exercises. But the reason why I'm having this discussion here is because once you know the challenges and are very conscious about them, and please watch the first video with the first challenge, is that you get an understanding of what goes on and you adjust your expectations, and then you can really deal with the actual challenge instead of just going, I played this a lot, it's really hard, and I use a lot of muscle power to do it, and I didn't achieve very much. You need to know what goes on so you can really use it to get what you want. And we're going to look more into that in the next video.